Just ahead on American Black Journal, we'll get the details on a new book focusing on the issues that sparked the 1967 Detroit uprising. Plus, thousands of used books and media go on sale for a good cause. Stay right there. American Black Journal starts now.
American Black Journal is funded by the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, a partner with communities where children come first.
How does diversity bring energy to us all? At DTE Energy, we believe that it's the contributions of all that build great communities. As a company, we grow stronger by welcoming the unique perspectives of everyone. As community members, we support our state's broad culture and heritage. From working closely with women and minority-owned suppliers to embracing our local cultures, DTE Energy is powering diversity. The DTE Energy Foundation is a proud sponsor of Detroit Public Television. Masco Corporation is proud to manufacture innovative and environmentally friendly products for the home. Delta faucets, craft-made in Merillat cabinets, and Behr brand paints have all been designed with you in mind. Masco and its family of companies, serving Michigan communities since 1929.
Welcome to American Black Journal. I'm Chastity Pratt-Dawsey, sitting in for Stephen Henderson. All last year, the members of the Detroit Journalism Cooperative examined whether social and economic conditions have improved in Detroit since the civil unrest that tore the city apart in 1967. The project, known as The Intersection, focused on issues such as poverty, racial attitudes, housing, and the relationship between police and residents. Now, the findings of the DJC have been compiled in a book of the same name, The Intersection, that's being released this week by Bridge Magazine. In addition to in-depth coverage, the book contains numerous historical photos. My first guests today are from the Detroit Journalism Cooperative: Lester Graham of Michigan Radio, Sandra Svoboda of WDET, and Ed Moore from Detroit Public Television. Welcome to American Black Journal.
Thank you.
So, full disclosure, I am a reporter for Bridge Magazine, so I am part of the book. We're all part of the book. We've been working together for a while on this stuff. So, Lester, I'm going to start with you. Talk about how The Intersection, the book, the project, the website, all of that came together.
Well, the whole idea was, let's take a look at where Detroit was before the 1967 uprising and where the African Americans in Detroit are today. And one of the guides we used was a presidential commission put out a report. It's called the Kerner Report. And its conclusion was, we're building two societies, one black, one white, separate and unequal. So
that was the Kerner Commission.
That was the Kerner Commission and their report. Yeah. And we started looking at all the grievances by African Americans then and compared to whether those grievances were still valid today. And we found that in more cases than not, they were for African Americans in Detroit.
Now, we worked on this before, obviously, the 50th anniversary. Just talk about, all of these topics, the racial attitudes, the policing, the housing. How did we get into those? Who did we choose? I mean, we could have chosen anybody to really talk about these issues as far as subjects and characters.
Well, let's talk about policing, because Bill McGraw did a magnificent job. He's with Bridge Magazine, and was with Bridge Magazine all year last year, and he really examined police relationships with the community, and that is a lot better now than it was in 1967. But some of the other things like housing, Mike Wilkinson with Bridge did a lot of data research to find out that home ownership is lower for blacks in Detroit than it was in 1967. Poverty is worse. There are all these other things you can just click off the boxes and say, wow, we haven't improved much. So why are we here? How did we get here? Why is this happening? And what are we going to do about it?
Right, right. Sandra, a book.
A book.
Why?
Radio, doing a book.
Right, radio, TV, online. Why a book? And even more, why should people read the book when a lot of the content, most of the content is already online at the Intersection website?
Well, for me, there's still nothing like holding a book in my hand. Having that on my bookshelf, having a dinner party, a dinner gathering where somebody's arguing about something, and instead of everyone reaching for their phones, you still grab the book off the shelf.
cool.
It is. I mean, there's photos. It's all in one place. It'll work if there's a power outage or your internet goes down. You can still have it. And it really puts the story together in a different kind of way, which is really what this partnership is all about. You've got TV and radio and print online here, and so to have all that work come together in a book was a learning experience for all of us as well, and a way to really have all that information in one place that will hopefully be long-lasting about a really important issue and events in the city's and really the country's history.
Absolutely, 50 years of history. Ed, you're a TV guy.
Yes.
This is a book.
Yes, it's a book.
It's not TV, it's not moving, it's not motion. So what role did the TV folks have in putting together the intersection?
Well, you know, we were really fortunate to be included in this cooperative. I think we're, of all the cooperatives that there are a few throughout the country, I think we're one of the few that has TV as an element within the cooperative. So we feel really fortunate to be a part of such a great team and have access to like the best reporters in the city.
Right. I don't think everyone, I mean, we've been doing this for almost 3 years. Not everyone still knows what the Detroit Journalism Cooperative is. Talk about it.
Well, it's 5 organizations. It's Detroit Public TV, obviously, where I'm from, Bridge Magazine, where you're from, Michigan Radio, and WDET, two radio elements, and then there's also New Michigan Media, which is made up of a consortium of ethnic minority newspapers as well. And we all
Michigan Chronicle is in there.
Michigan Chronicle is in there, as well as the Korean Weekly, the Latino Press, Arab American News, and the Jewish News as well. So really great representation of a lot of different communities throughout the region, really, the Southeast Michigan, as well as Detroit.
Working together, not competing.
Working together and all underneath the intersection last year. That's where the intersection really kind of came into play. I think it was the first time that all these organizations kind of came together in a way, other than the bankruptcy, that kind of kicked it all off.
Right.
But then when we had something besides a bankruptcy that's driving everybody's attention to one place, we kind of had to figure out, okay, how are we going to come together? What is something we can all collaborate and work toward? And that's where the intersection came to be. And the Kerner Commission kind of really drove, you know, how we were going to cover this story for the year.
It's been 50 years. You know, most everyone in the Detroit area thinks they know the story. What did you learn?
I learned a lot. First of all, everybody's story and what they believe about the 1967 uprising is different. And I don't care whether you're white, black, or other. It really is different. I want to say one thing about the title, though. The intersection.
Right.
That intersection is 12th and Claremont. That's where the 1967 uprising began. It's also an intersection of all these different media members getting together and making things work. I thought that was kind of clever. But the whole idea of what I learned is that African Americans in Detroit are not seeing the same kind of success in the neighborhoods as we keep hearing about in downtown. And so, in fact, this year we're following up and we're looking into that further to find out how is Detroit doing. It's really important to follow that up and keep covering this, because this is not a one-off. These stories keep going on. People are still suffering. We want to make sure that we tell those stories and not just, oh, great, the queue line's going now. You know, everything's fixed.
Right. There's still hundreds of thousands of people in the neighborhoods who don't feel any different than they did in 1967. What'd you learn, Sandra?
I think what was most interesting is the book is rooted in the history. It's rooted in the Kerner Commission and the conclusions that were made there. But we also look at how those issues are present today. For example, when we talk about education, lack of quality education sometimes in the city was cited as one of the causes of all of the unrest in the 1960s, part of the civil rights movement. We look at issues of education in Detroit and in Michigan today in the book, right down to the level of a piece that a reporter named Laura Herberg did from WDET about how parents pick schools. Just the complexity that goes into that decision for people that are able to be making that decision with transportation issues and types of schools and ages of their children. Like, that's something that a lot of people don't think about in their daily lives.
And you are touching my soft spot.
Education,
right?
Exactly. I mean, what am I telling you about education for? But you know, it was something that just has that much more complexity to it. Some similar of the 1960s, some different issues as they're presented.
And definitely, we talked about how segregation within the schools has increased since 1967. So, you know, what happened here? What happened here? Did we come to any conclusions in this book that people didn't already know? What'd you learn?
What I learned was just how hungry Detroiters are to tell their stories to us, and how we could better connect with them to glean those stories. That a lot of times that what's the stories that are being that represent these communities are done from maybe a far off place to them, and don't feel like that we hit on all the critical issues that they're really facing, or give it the kind of nuance they want, or the context that's really needed. And I think that's something that particularly I learned working within the cooperative, and we've carried on to 2018, is to get out in the community. And I think that's what 2018 is about for all of us, is getting into the community more often, hearing those voices, making sure that not only we get the story right, but that we go into more depth, more nuance, and really get the context that is missing in other media sources.
50 years later, people still want to tell their part of the story. So Lester, you did a whole lot of stuff for this book. What was your favorite piece?
Of the book, or because I think Bill McGraw did a masterful job, so I'm a big fan of his.
Yes.
But of the stuff I did, I think that looking into the history and why it matters was probably the most rewarding part, because there was a lot going on prior to '67. This commission we keep talking about, Kerner Commission, I mean, that thing was formed while the fires were still burning in Detroit. And that report was not something that the leaders at the time wanted to hear. They didn't want to hear that the problems, the civil disturbances we saw all across the country in 1967 were because of white attitudes toward black people. They didn't want to hear that.
Johnson shelved it, didn't he?
Right. He put it away. He basically said, he commissioned the commission. And
then the report was a little too hot to take.
Right. And we explained that in the book. And then after that, then you end up with a law and order president, Richard Nixon, and the whole idea of following it.
Right.
Yeah.
Sandra, what was your favorite piece? We got about a minute left.
Oh gosh, there's so much in it. I think one of the things that this speaks to a big, long history in Detroit that is told in many places and should be. But one of the things that we did in this that was unique was a survey about attitudes. So we commissioned a poll to talk to Detroiters and suburban Detroit residents about their attitudes about issues today. And I look forward to going back and looking at those results 5 and 10 years from now and hopefully comparing them to see if we can make any improvements.
It was really hard to get people to talk about their racial attitudes, probably as much today as back then. Don't you agree?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we did a very short piece on white privilege that really caught a lot of heat, trying to unpack what that is exactly.
So the intersection, this was really a labor for us, right?
Yeah.
I invite people to take a look at it. You can get at it from what's the website again?
BridgeMI.com.
BridgeMI.com.
Absolutely.
Thank you.